This is the special filmmakers episode number 16. We have Rhyan Lamarr, who you may know from the movie Canal Street and Better Days. We have Will Thomas, who's directed everybody in Christian hip hop's music videos. And we have Darius West, who is the director and creator of Mic Drop, a Christian rap documentary that will be coming out quite soon. So we're going to be speaking to filmmakers, which is super exciting because I love film, and I'm sure many of you in here love film as well. Man, I've spoken to you on the phone a couple of times. Now I get to see you face to face, so it's good to meet you over Instagram.
Yeah, I know, right? Spoken through email and over the phone, and it's an
Yep.
opportunity now to speak to you live and see your face. Put a face with a voice. It's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So for everybody tuning in from Darius' page, my name is Justin. I'm the editor of Rapzilla.com. This is Community During Chaos. Every week I get together with 3 different creatives in the CHH space to talk about solutions and positivity in 2020 as opposed to all the craziness and the negativity. How can we move forward as leaders using our platforms, using our creativity? And, can we come up with answers if we all work together? So this is episode 16. So I've spoken to a lot of people over now the 16th week, 3 people every week. So Darius, welcome aboard. The first question I'm going to ask you is what I ask everyone. Man, 2020, what has this year been like for you from COVID through the civil unrest through just the uncertainty of everything? How have you managed to get through it?
For me personally, it's been very, very eye-opening, just from the standpoint of what I've seen take place over this past year. From we were at the Grammys when Kobe passed away down in Staples Center.
Right.
That's when 2020 kind of started, man, in terms of like
Yeah.
the tragedies and the shock in the world, in that sense. That's how it started. The tremendous shock that it brought to the world in the morning for both Kobe and Gigi and everyone else that was aboard that helicopter.
Yeah.
Fast forward a month and a half later, COVID hits and everything's shut down. And for me personally, for me and my family, because I work from home for the most part, unless I'm doing work on the set. I'm at the house working on something or editing something or on the phone.
Yeah.
Things, it didn't affect me in terms of work or anything like that, but it affected us being able, me and my wife, Tuesday night is our date night, so we like to go to the movies, and I'm a movie buff, so that kind of messed up my social life, with me and my wife kind of getting out the house and being away from the kids and things like that. But just from a global viewpoint, man, just listening to God, about what was happening. One of the things that I always look at life in terms of, it's like, this is never a surprise to God. It's only a surprise to us. So God knows
Yeah.
something we don't. You know what I'm saying? So I never go into the lane like a lot of believers do. Oh, the devil doing this. The devil is like, I don't blame the devil for stuff. It's like, well, what is God doing? Because obviously God is saying something that we need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe the notion that the devil shut down the churches and stuff like that, because I believe everything that has happened and is happening, God knew was going to happen, and God's hand is in the midst of it, and He has
Yeah.
purpose and goal. So I always go from that standpoint. And one of the things that I realized, just from speaking to people that I know, people in ministry, just people in the film industry, is that this has been a tremendous eye-opening experience for them from a personal standpoint about where they are with God. Because one of the things that happens when I've said over and over again, even before the COVID, take place, because I counsel a lot of people who are in leadership and doing church ministry, is like, if the church doors close and you don't have ministry, who are you really?
Right.
Take that away. And that's what happened during this COVID, man. When churches shut down, people can't escape from personal life, by hiding in ministry. Once the ministry is away, you have to face yourself. You have to face your relationship with your wife. You got to face your relationship with your kids. You got to face, all those things that kind of took away from you spending those times addressing those issues. Now you have to address them. And that's how I saw it. My family, my wife, and my kids, we took full advantage of that moment to
Yeah.
take an introspective look at our lives and say, okay, what do we need to do as a family, as individuals, to seek God for this time? So yeah.
So for you, like how have you been able to use, your platform, your creativity, your unique voice within the spaces you cover to kind of help the community or just lend a voice to what's happening all around us?
Yeah, it's been very interesting because of the situation with the COVID and the shutdowns. That actually helped the propelling and the marketing of the film mic drop. Because a lot of once we released the new trailer in May, by this time everybody was, I think it's probably April, March, April, I believe. By this time everybody was
Yeah.
like in the house, 24/7, like you said, 24/7. Social media is booming. Zoom stock just everything,
Yeah.
everybody's online. So when we released, we did just a minor, like, okay, let's release it on Friday and see what it looks like. Oh, by Sunday or Monday, then we're gonna do this, this big Zoom meeting with all these pioneers and in the film, and on Monday, and let's kind of see how that goes. Well, by Saturday or Sunday, man, it was like, on Facebook, it was just blowing up. People were sharing,
Yeah.
just got thousands and thousands of views. Oh my God, we this is what something that we was anticipating, was hoping for, a couple thousand views here and there. Then got to the 20,000 views. Like, then by the time we had the setup for Monday for the Zooming with these pioneers, like Chris Cooper, Super C, Fred Lynch, and you had Petty D, you had Stephen Wiley, we had it, so it became like everybody wanted to check out this Zoom. So we had like over 1,000 people watching at one time on Facebook. We was like, wow. And that's when I realized, okay, we can take advantage of this moment because people are actually online now. I saw people
Yeah.
online I ain't seen online in like a decade, man. It was just like posting like stuff on IG stories. Like, where you been? Like, they at home. And so we just, we saw this opportunity, like I said, just looking at it from a positive view point and seeing that this film was supposed to come out in 2020 because it was done in 2017. We was ready to push it, but going back and forth with our team over at Warner Music, it's like, okay, we need to change things, we need to do things. So the film was actually finished. The second cut, final cut, was done at the top of 2020. You know what I'm saying? So we was ready. Like, now it's the time to really release it, and it just worked out for us, and been tremendously important for us to do what we do.
As a filmmaker, what sort of stories do you feel need to be told by or about people of color? And are we seeing some of these positive trends now that there's more people of color kind of given access to
Yeah.
different things?
Yeah, I think I'm a big proponent of messages of justice, social justice, but also not only just social justice, but just showing uh from our viewpoint, from our lens, what goes on a normal day a basis. Like, before I started IG, I was watching Brown Sugar. It just came on VH1. I was like, yo, this is dope, and just checking out the whole hip hop vibe, with Tay
Yeah.
Diggs and Sanaa Lathan. But these kind of stories, even what Jordan Peele is doing with the whole black horror thriller type thing,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
never had that.
It's brand new.
You got Lovecraft Country, come on, you had Antebellum coming out, he's executive producer for both, but it's like that kind of realm, or not realm, but that kind of platform we never touched. And for me, I'm a big Ridley Scott fan. He's one of my favorite directors. So I love sci-fi, man. I love stuff that's like make you think, and those kind of films
Right.
I also plan to make, and I have a few scripts that delve into the spiritual realm in terms of angelic presence and things like that. But coming from the storyline of someone that is not predominantly in what we consider Hollywood entertainment, what they expect, but coming with
Yeah.
our understanding of not just hip hop culture, not just church culture, but just culture in general, and how we see things from our eyesight.
Yeah. Like previously, I know kind of black films were like, they were geared towards this one thing. Like you had your Boys in the Hood type movie,
Yeah.
or then you have your black comedies,
Yeah.
right? But now you have Jordan Peele, who's like, I'm going to do a horror movie. And it's like, wait a second, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see, like you said, you're a fan of sci-fi. What Jordan Peele is doing is technically also sci-fi because he's got these weird elements in it, like in Us as well.
Exactly.
And it's cool to see these voices, and it's funny that, and it's a sad thing to say that it's like, oh, it becomes a black film just because the leads of the film are black, or the director is black, and then people will label it that. But it's like, no, this is a high quality film. You know, it wasn't necessarily made for the African American community, but it's made with characters that represent them instead of the norm of, we'll have the funny character here, or we'll have, this person here. So it is really cool to see that. And it's cool to see more creators, coming out and being given these spaces outside of, your stereotypical films that would have normally been made.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And even, what about from the documentary side? Like, do you feel that there's an untapped, story about Black America or a minority America that hasn't really been told, in a nice documentary sort of fashion, like a nice informative area?
Yeah, I believe so. One thing, there's a show called Greenleaf, and I haven't seen a whole lot. I saw some of the first season, but I think one of the things that has not really been tapped in terms of documentary is understanding music that has come out of the Black church. We talking about you talking about jazz, you talking about R&B, you talking about blues, all that music that came from the body of Christ, and really from the Black segment of the body of Christ, which is now everybody know what music is in terms of hip hop and everything. I think there's a documentary, a story there that hasn't been told. Going all the way back to time of slavery until to the 1800s, to early 1900s, and the Harlem Renaissance and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot to be told that has not been processed yet.
Dope. Now, obviously, we're in a time where film could be anything, right? Someone could pull out their phone and film things that are happening, and that's a viral video, and that's like, look at this news report or whatever, and it's like, this was just a kid with his phone who just caught something. But so we're in this constant media age, right? So now everything that we see, like going, with George Floyd and the protesting and arrest, you see everything sort of captured in these moments. So how have you yourself sort of taken in these different things and been sparked with any ideas of like if I was a filmmaker kind of out on the streets as these things were happening, how would I have want to capture this story?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always about the story, that kind of pulls in the message, from seeing what's happened, George Floyd, May 5th, May 6th, and how the world responded to it, because you're right there, everybody can see it. I think that story, and some of those elements we also did with Mic Drop. We actually had have footage of people actually at the concert, during the concert of Doc. We use their iPhone footage, or whatever they had, to kind of tell the story from, not so much from the person, but from the lens, from that medium. And I think that makes it feel like you're a part of that. I think that's what people they gravitate to the idea that it feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm a part of it because it's real, it's raw. And so for me, I think any story that could be told from the lens of something that's raw and that's real, this generation loves that. They love, it don't have to be professionally edited. It don't have to be, as long as it's raw and it's real. That's what, and that's the approach I want to take with any type of film that I do. I want it to feel like it's raw and it's real, but also has a story that moves things along to where you hit all your marks, you hit all your beats and things like that in terms of a script, but still make the realness and the rawness apparent in what you're doing.
Dope. Now you as a father, how have you been able to have, or what types of conversations have you been able to have with your kids during all of this craziness, and them seeing what's happening on the news, or even maybe in their neighborhood, if if there was a protest, if there was rioting, if there was whatever?
Yeah. Well, interesting, man. We sat down, our three daughters. We watched George Floyd death together. And the interesting thing is, me and my wife have a mixed family. So my two older daughters, they're Black and Hispanic. And
Mm-hmm.
my youngest daughter, who was called my bonus daughter because it's my wife's daughter, she's white and Hispanic, but she's basically blonde hair, blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? But her dad's Hispanic. So, but we had a conversation. We sat them down and said, look, you know, Autumn, there may be times where your sisters may walk in the same room as you, and they maybe get some looks that you won't get
Yeah.
because you don't look Mexican, you don't look Black, you look white, and so you have to be a voice for them where they can't be a voice. And the same thing to our oldest too, Eden Valentine. You have to do the same thing for your daughters and showing them. For them, they've known each other since for 5 years, so they're just sisters, so it don't matter. But in the outside world, you're seen differently depending on
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
community or what boardroom you may be sitting in or what store you walk in. And we just have those real conversations with them and say, God loves everybody, but everybody don't love everybody. Everybody doesn't like everybody. So you have to make sure you stand
Right.
up for one another. So it gives a great opportunity to do that.
Now, for you going into the future, eventually we will get to 2021. What are your hopes and dreams for the future going forward?
Well, in 2021, this too will pass. Things will get back to some type of normalcy, but I believe there still will be a sense of high alertness in terms of being more vigilant in our health, being more vigilant in distancing, whatever. There's still gonna be kind of that stigmatism on us because of what we experienced in 2020. But I think
Right.
2021 is really this has been a kind of refreshing for a lot of us in terms of I remember when we went outside in LA, after about 2 months, there was like no smog. It's like, wow, there was no smog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think those kind of things would be more environmental conscious in terms of like
Yeah.
our health, our planet, and just even our world and what's going on in terms of 2020 for us. Just moving forward, man. We have quite a few documentaries on our docket that we're working on, and I have some other things that I work on in terms of series and the film. So we're just going to continue to work and continue to move forward, working with some other producers for a documentary called Jesus Revolution V2, which kind of chronicles the 60s and the 70s revolution. So
Yeah.
helping produce that here in LA and also in the UK. So we're just going to continue to do what we do in terms of work, but also remain vigilant in our health and just being conscious of our environment and social justice, man, and really just being a voice for that.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to see everything. And real quick before you go, where could everyone follow you? Watch your movie, the work, everything.
Yeah.
Plug away.
You can follow me at Darius West, real simple, and also at Mike Drop the movie. The film comes out probably like a month and a half from now. They're finishing up the soundtrack.
Nice.
Be released soon. We just had to deal with some of the little ancillary things that publishing stuff. We had to deal with some artists, but that's on the Warner. Warner Music is releasing the soundtrack, and also Warner's releasing documentary, which would be either Netflix or Hulu. I don't know yet, so everything's on their end.
Okay.
And so that's gonna be pumping out. We're doing a premiere next month in Nashville. It's a VIP premiere for people that have been a part of the process, and family, things like that. Come check out the premiere in Nashville, social distance type of thing. So we're prepping for that. So yeah, follow me at Darius West or at Mike Drop the Movie. Get more information, and also the website MikeDropTheMovie.com.
All right, let's go live with Will Thomas right now. Hey,
what's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's up, man? What's up?
How's it going, man? I've seen your name everywhere. I've seen your work probably every single day, but I have never seen you. So it is
hilarious, man.
It is nice to meet you, man. Nice to get you on the show.
Just trying to say this. One of the things I've been doing it for about 10 years, Christian hip hop videos. And the reason why I got into doing it was because of lack of quality. I just got
Hmm.
so tired of seeing these videos where they start off with a drug dealer. He's serving dope on the corner. Then,
I'm still seeing those.
right. And then a person comes to minister them the Bible. And then the guy turns his head. He looks back. The guy disappeared. And it was an angel. And then he goes to church and gives his life. And I was just sick and tired of those videos because does it happen? I'm pretty sure there's people out there that can say that's their testimony. But for 99.9% of people that I knew, that was not their testimony. That was not their
Right.
story. Their story was they got born again and their life went to hell. You know what I mean? It got worse in some cases. You know what I mean? They had to deal with things now. They got these addictions, these problems, and they just didn't know the word of God enough. You know what I mean? To be able to address it. And some of them would get born again, go to church, didn't get discipled, and then they're back on the streets in 3 or 4 weeks. You know, so I wanted to tell a story of a real Jesus that I knew, the one that was going to walk me through the situation, the one that I came as dirty as I was, you know, filthy rags, but he was the one who's going to be cleaning me. One thing about being cleaned by God is a process. You know what I mean? Like anything. You got dirty dishes, you got dirty clothes, it has to go through a cleansing process.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? After you get cleansed, then it has to be dried. You know, so with that being said, I'm like, I want to show people that when you get born again, the first thing that you'll get when you get born again is you'll have a sense of peace. Okay?
Yeah.
The situation may not change, but you have that peace. And if you're willing to walk with God, you know what I mean? Get to stop and do the walk, you will make it out wherever you're at. And that's where a lot of my videos, my inspirations came from. And then the other inspiration was I just got tired of the lack of just creativity in Christian videos.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do videos that I grew up. I grew up in the Hype Williams era. You know what I mean? Big videos. Now, I knew I couldn't do those kind of videos based on the budgets I had when I started. But I knew I can get the heart, the feeling, the emotion, the real of those videos. And that's what I really wanted to do. And I just really, I mean, and this is going to just be the honest truth. I can't be but real. I saw what Reach Records was doing. And I'm like, man, I want to give artists like Flame, Thizzle, Jason, all these people the same quality of videos that they're putting out. You know? And because I wanted to do that, it became really a lot of fun to be able to do these really great videos on a lesser budget at times, than what they were doing. Because I wanted somebody, when they type in Lecrae and another Christian rap video came that I did, it would have the same quality, the same message.
Right.
You know what I mean? That their videos carried. And for me, that was very important.
Yeah, and you could tell your videos have this cinematic quality to it. Like you have your regular music video, you're like, okay, cool, that's nice. And then you have that video that really kind of pushes beyond, that is capturing you, right? With that cinematic quality. And that's what you do. Like you have your signature thing. Like, you know, I was like, oh, this is a Will Thomas video. Like as soon as you pop it on. And that's dope, because it's almost like that producer tag, right? Or like that producer, that signature like count or that beat that they throw in. You're like, oh, that's on beat music, or that's, you know, whoever.
Right.
So it's pretty cool to have that trademark. 2020, man, it's been a year. So how have you been able to navigate with all of the craziness that has happened this year?
Well, you know, I think what 2020 has been for me has been actually been a really good year, believe it or not. Well, and that's what me and Ryan, we were talking about, you know what I mean? And we had the same thing, like people are scared to say it, but I mean, I prospered. I mean, I went from using DSLR cameras and renting Res and aerial lessons to buying a Red this year. You know what I mean? To be able to partner up with my homeboy, Ray Knowledge, who's a great filmmaker here in Atlanta. And it's been great. I think if I was going to say anything, the year 2020 has been about loss for me. You know what I mean? I think that's been the toughest part, because I've had 4 people that I've known die from COVID.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
So for me, it has been a year of loss in the regard of relationships. So what I started to realize this year is I need to value people more. There are people who call me up and I'm too busy to talk to them, or I got to get this edit done, or I got to get on this shoot. You know, and one of the people who died was one of those people. You know what I mean? He hit me up. I hit decline. I can talk to him later. And then boom, you know what I mean? A month later, I'm finding out, you know, through a text from his parents that he's dead. So, and thank God he was a believer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm happy that he is with Jesus now. I didn't like the way he went out, and I'm going to miss him. you know, in particular, because other 3 people I was able to keep in, constant contact with before they passed. And I do have another friend who's fighting for her life, Lisa Collins, and not with COVID, but she's dealing with cancer. So I try to talk to her as much as
All
I
right.
can.
She's a photographer, right?
Yeah, she's a photographer, right? So I've known her for about 10 years. And I think that's what I'm ready to learn to deal with, because I don't think you ever really learn to deal with loss. I think what it is for me is that you learn that it's a natural process. And what I have to do during this time is get more closer to God and cling to Him when I miss people, and not try to fill that void with drinking or try to fill that void with pornography.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's sometimes what happens is when you lose somebody and it hurts really bad, you want to try to cope, use different things to cope with that loss.
Yeah.
And for me, instead of trying to use those things to cope, I want to cope with the Word of God. I want to cope with Jesus. I want to cope with his love and His comfort. And I think that's what it's been for me. That's been the biggest thing right there concerning Corona and what's going on with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And since all this happened with George Floyd even now too, and the protest, have you been able to capture and document some of what's going on? Like, have you just been able to lend, your creative aspect to the story of what's been happening, around the world because of this?
Yeah. So what I've been able to do, so the thing with George Floyd, this is the first, I don't want to devalue what happened to him. So hear me out. But this is something that's going on for a while.
Yeah.
This is not new.
It's not new.
This is not something that just magically he's the first Black man to be murdered. You know what I'm saying? He's the first one that came at a particular time where we're all trapped in our houses. We can't travel. Mm-hmm. We can't go to work. It was like the perfect storm. So right. When he died, it just added flame to a fire that was already, or gasoline to a fire that was already building. So then when that happened, it just kind of set people off. Now, like I said, I don't want to degrade because he lost his life, but we should have felt this way from the 15, 20 people that died before, because we always look in history as Martin Luther King being, he ended racism. He did not.
No.
Racism just took a different form. Now, instead of beating people up in public, you know what I mean? They do it now behind closed doors. They put up extra roadblocks for African Americans to have to jump over. You know what I mean? They put more hoops that we have to crawl through. You know what I'm saying? And I think I'm happy the response that we got from there, because I think now it's starting to put attention that this is a real problem. You know what I mean? First, they try to tell, I heard different narratives that he was this or he was that. And I'm not saying that he wasn't what these narratives that they're saying. But what I am saying is they should not have died for it. You know what I mean? Garner should not have died for it. You know what I mean? Tamara Rice should not have died for it. So for me as a filmmaker, I think I've been kind of staying away from trying to tell a narrative of it, because I'm still in the process of processing what's going on. It's a lot to take in. And I would hate to be able to tell you that I got it figured out. I don't know how to feel at times. There are times I'm angry and I'm very bitter. And there's times where I'm like, I need to forgive my brother, But I'm in a place right now, I'm still processing it. And I think as a filmmaker, if I were to start, now I have captured some protesting. Now I have been here in Atlanta and I have captured it, but I've used it more in the regards relating to the church. There have been some projects that have been hired by the church. There are a few churches here in Atlanta that really want to address racism, not only in the context of the, what's going on in the world, but also in the context of what's going on in the church. So I've been hired to be able to show some of these images and try to do it in a way where we don't get people so offended that they don't want to sit down at the table and have a conversation. We want to do it in a way that, hey, there's a problem. We want to sit down and talk about it. And from the people that I have personally dealt with, there's been more of a level of ignorance. And the ignorance coming from these just groups of people who just don't hang around Black people.
They don't know. They have no idea.
Circles. I know for me, I don't hang around a lot of white people. They're just not in my circle, not hanging around them when it comes to business.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go out and say, hey, man, I'm going to hang out with my white friends. I just don't. I don't hang around those people that often. So with that being said, when we do have opportunities to come together, it always is a great time. Cause I don't want to come across as being that angry guy. Because when you're angry and you're belligerent and yelling, the other party shuts down. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like I got a friend named Legend. You interviewed him, Nigel Anderson. And the conversation that we had, man, we just get tired. I'm tired of having these conversations. I'm tired of having to explain the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's, for me, it's just been a big drain. So when I'm doing projects now that have to deal with that, you know what I'm saying? It's just more drain. I can't edit those kind of videos, keep seeing Black people getting shot, Black women getting shot. Hey, white people getting shot, cops getting shot. You know what I mean? That is draining. You know, so what I try to do when I have these conversations is try to come from a mindset that these individuals, I'm starting from scratch every time I have a conversation with somebody. We got to kind of start from every Black person, every Black woman in the world is not a thug. That's not a dope dealer. You know what I mean? It's not those things. And there are some people out there who have been murdered, and it was exactly what it was, murder. It was something they caused to happen. Now, there are other situations that, they deserve to be arrested and thrown in jail. But it should not have escalated to the level in which it went.
Right.
You know, so as a filmmaker, I want to address the issue, but then also point people, you know what I mean, to the solution. And the solution is, of course, Jesus. But we have to do some groundwork. We have to have conversations. We have to express our feelings. We have to express our ideas on how to resolve and come to some type of way where we can acknowledge that these lives are valuable and we need to put a stop to systematic racism. We need to put a stop to police brutality. You know, but it doesn't stop there. There's levels of government, you know what I mean? There's levels of businesses that do the same thing too. They may not be killing somebody or murdering them, but they kill their dreams. They kill their hopes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're this ethnic, you can't do this, you can't do that, we're not going to accept you. And so it's levels to it. You know what I mean? And it starts from the top down. These officers that did the things that they did, it was because they were in an environment that allowed it to happen. They were put into an environment where, you know, they have quotas. They have certain things they have to do every month. So now they're motivated to be more aggressive. They're motivated to do more things that maybe out of law. Whereas if the leadership of these different police departments was at a place where they weren't pressuring these cops, and then on top of that, allowing cops to have a history of violence, have a history of beating people, there needs to be some type of national system to where when you have a cop get fired, you know what I mean, from one police department, they can't just move to another city and get hired somewhere else. And that's what happens to some of these officers. They get fired from their job, they don't get prosecuted, but then they go and get a job at another precinct. And guess what? They're back doing the same thing that they did before. Yeah.
And that happens in many areas, not to change the subject too drastically, but you hear a lot of these things happening with the priests in Catholic churches, you know, who have a history. They just, we'll just get rid of that priest, but then he goes and moves over to another parish. Exactly. And it's just, you're just shifting the problem to another community, which is even worse because you're just spreading it without nipping it. Have you felt that, you know, just what you were talking about here, like how that's draining to constantly be editing and putting together videos like that? Have more artists been coming to you with videos, you know, for things like that, like social justice, that's kind of forcing you to be like, well, I have to do this?
I pick and choose my jobs. I'm glad to be in that position. I think the conversation I have with these artists are, are you doing this video just to get some views? I mean, are you trying to really be a solution? Are you going to have conversations with people? Unfortunately, the reality of these artists are doing it because it's a hot topic and they know they can get some cheap views, but they're not willing to go out there and actually try to make a change. Right. I think that's the problem I have with a lot of artists in general, is that they are just opportunists. They see an opportunity and they take it. I'm not saying about everybody, and I'm not saying about the people that I have done videos for. You know what I mean? But what I am saying, there's a few out there that are just not looking for a resolution. They're just looking to make a quick dollar. You know what I
Right.
mean? Some quick pub or some quick advertisement money from YouTube. And you know what I mean? It's not just in Christian hip hop, it's across the board in the mainstream market as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like if you really want to see change, it's a sacrifice. It's a draining sacrifice. For me, when I go and hear a song that's talking about this, my question is, okay, what are they doing musically that's a spent? Are they just talking about the same thing everybody else talk about? Or are they coming at it from a different perspective in a different direction? You know, unfortunately, a lot of artists aren't doing it. The only one that I really like a lot is from Nigel, Legend. Legend. His album dropped a couple of weeks ago, and we dropped a video today called Feel. And with Feel, he's talking about the stuff, but he's talking about how he feels and how he's in a position, how it would feel for him to get shot, how it would feel for him to be the cop in that position. And that's what we're talking about. So it's a really good one because it's not just saying cops are the problem and they're wrong, but it's also not saying that, you know what I mean, black people are always innocent. And that's what I like about that record. Instead of being that more all cops are evil, blue lives don't matter, they do. You know what I mean? Because there are black cops out there. There are white cops out there that love the Lord. It's like this notion that people think, you know what I mean, all Republicans are Christians and all Democrats aren't. Or all Democrats are Christian, or you know what I mean? They're Christians in both parties. You know what I mean? Is what that personal individual represents and how they go about their life, how they do it. And with the cops, what happened in LA was super unfortunate. I'm going all over the place. You gotta forgive me. But what happened in LA was sad because those two cops that had gotten shot, they may have had nothing to do with any type of. They could have been great cops, doing the right thing. And you know what I mean? The cops that are bad, the cops that, you know what I mean, should be prosecuted. You know what I mean? They're chilling in an office somewhere at their house while somebody else is playing, while somebody else is taking, you know what I mean, the hit. So when I think about artists, kind of circle back around, they want to do something, my question is, okay, outside of this video and song, are you actually going to do anything? Or is this just hype? If this is just hype, I'm good. I don't want to do your
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, you got to see how many submissions I got once COVID happened. Quarantine songs, COVID-19 songs, mask on type songs, with making it a dance or something. And then, you know, how many George Floyd tributes came in. And it's like, it's nice and all, and you get the sentiment. But like you said, like it's kind of tough because it's hard to say to somebody like, what's your true motivation doing? Like, you don't actually mean what you're saying. Like, this is just an opportunity. But like, how do you say that to somebody? And, you know, of course, in their head, they may not feel that way. That they're just like, I'm just trying to be, you know, using music as my outlet. But there comes a point when it's just like, all right, like I've heard like 25 of these COVID-19 songs or 25 of these, you know, George Floyd songs. And it's just like, I can't take anymore. Like I can't do that anymore. And it's a tough space because it literally happens with every tragedy or every, you know, trending topic in the news. And, you know, we'll see now we'll get a bunch of election songs, you know, come November, you know, what side are you on? Or did you vote or something like that? And it's just like,
yeah, that reminds me of that meme from Game of Thrones, Winter is coming. You know what I mean? It's like political videos are coming.
Yeah.
Brace yourself.
Here it comes. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but being that you've worked with so many artists within CHH, how do you feel that overall as a community it's done with social justice and kind of using their voice as a platform for change?
Okay, so that's a tricky question because I don't necessarily know the mindset of a lot of artists. So I'm going to come from my standpoint, come from the outside looking in when it comes to this. I feel like there's a lot of artists out there that don't really want to deal with the weight that comes with some social justice issues being brought up. They don't want to deal with the possible being blackballed by churches or individuals. You know what I mean? A great example of that, we saw what happened to with Lecrae. Let's just take a look at him. He started becoming a lot more about social justice, and he got shunned. by a lot of different pastors, a lot of different
Yep.
churches that were very big supporters of him. The advantage Lecrae has is that he is rich. He can take that hit.
He was big enough to be able to weigh that option, but the smaller artist isn't.
They can't do that, so they're put into a position that they don't have a strong conviction to do it. They're going to stay away from it. I think that's why I like with some like I said, like with Legend. I keep bringing him up, but he is definitely one of the people who is really.
I love Legend. Yep.
You know what I mean? He's taking that risk, but I think the difference with him is that he's going to get in the mud with people. You know what I mean? And get dirty himself in order to help them. Whereas a lot of artists, unfortunately, don't want to do that. They don't want to go to that extra length. And for me, I think more artists should use their position. You know what I mean? To be to talk about these issues and bring attention to it. That's why I have much respect for LeBron James, for example. He has been very vocal. He has used his position not only to talk about social injustice, but also to encourage people to go out and vote, but then also put money behind it to areas that are poor, to areas that may be at a disadvantage, to help raise awareness, but also to get polls out there in those areas. Now, of course, our artists don't have that ability of LeBron James, but they can affect their community. They can affect the church. But once again, you know, I mean, artists got to say to themselves, do I really want to make that sacrifice? Does the cost, you know what I mean, does the cost way too much for me to do it? Because I know there's been times where I posted things on my social media. I know Derek Miner is really good for it as well, where there's a lot of people hit me in my DM. They be like, man, this is the kind of stuff that will get you unfollowed. You will never come to my church and do any videos, you know. And that's a loss, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you know what I mean? Hey, what's up, Adrian? I see you. What's up, Seven? Gotta give shout outs real quick. What's up, Brinson? Gotta do that before they hit me up with a text later. Man, you didn't give me no shout out. But that's the cost of it. I think for me being a videographer, I kind of get a free pass. I'm not held up to the standard that my fellow brothers and sisters who are artists are. At the end of the day, I mean, worst case scenario, if the church says we don't want to work with you no more, cool. I just go to mainstream. You know what I mean? I give them money. You know what I'm coming from? I don't have that. People don't ask me. I never set up for me. I am a Christian director. You know what I mean? I'm just a director. You look at my work, you know I'm Christian. If you have a conversation with me, you know I'm a Christian. You know what I mean? I understand why Christian rap came into being, because that's how they separate themselves to ignorant church that didn't know the difference. You know? So, in a roundabout way, that's kind of my viewpoint. I can't really get much deeper than that because of the fact I don't really feel artists. I don't go through the same things that they necessarily go through or have to deal with the necessary sacrifice that they may have to take on.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously that argument of Christian rapper versus rapper who's Christian is super old, but now you got that extends to videographer. That extends to me as a journalist. Like I've had someone ask me, "Oh, so what's it like, you know, being a Christian journalist?" And I was like, I stopped for a second. I was like, dang, because my degree just says journalism on it. Like it never. I wrote for other places before. I did other things. I found myself here. You know, and it's been an awesome ride that you could kind of mix almost like that ministry aspect of it, because you're helping advance, you know, people who are spreading the gospel, right?
Right.
But at the same time, that's my job. So like if I went out and did a story on someone else, like, oh, what are you doing? I thought you were a Christian journalist.
Right.
And it's like the rapper who has a Christian rapper who has a non-Christian feature. Right. It's like, no, I'm just doing a feature for that magazine right now. Right. It's a wild thing, man. So, all right, my last question to you before we hop on with Rhyan Lamarr is, do you like moving forward once I guess you have a more clear head for things that are going on, would you want to tackle some of these, you know, African American, like Black experience stories kind of in a more cinematic way?
Yeah, I definitely would do it. I want to do is the kind of films that I want to do are basically drama. I like movies like Moonlight. I dislike the fact of the, you know what I mean, dealing with the sexual content with the character. I'm very tired of that narrative of Black filmmakers doing movies making Black people gay. It's here. It's a situation everybody faces. You know what I mean? But I want to be able to do films that are dealing with sexuality, where a guy may think they're gay or maybe going through his tendencies, but then they find God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do, that's kind of where my heart is at, actually. When it comes to the brutality part, not very much, but more along the lines of identity. One of the things that we see a lot going on in our Black culture right now is we have a lack of identity. You got some people like Beyonce that's saying, you know what I mean, Black is king. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of going really extreme with that message. Because now we're saying Black is king, everybody else is a slave to us. I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? Then you got some other extremes when you're dealing with people in low income environments where they're saying we're slaves to the white man, we're slaves to them, we can't get out, they put our foot on our throat. You know what I mean? They're white people. News alert: white people are not God. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put any race in that position, but I'm not God either.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm a son of God, and I'm a joint heir with Jesus. You know what I mean? And for me, I'm a Christian first, Black man second. So that means my Christian principles, the Bible overrides what I feel as a Black man. You know what I'm saying? But that does not mean I ignore my feelings and how I feel as a Black man. But I put how I feel, what I think needs to be done through the lenses of the Bible, through the lenses of God. One thing about God, he's a God of justice. So I'm not going to sit there. I mean, yes, I want to forgive people who do wrong to us, but I also want to see justice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I'm doing a film, I want to do with those kind of subject matters, deal with those kind of things, because I feel like film is for some reason, man, you put something in the movie and you put images to it, people believe it or they consider it. Like, look at Da Vinci Code. So many people came to me, oh, wow, Da Vinci Code, I saw that movie. Man, the Bible's fake. The Roman, you know what I mean? Because they saw it. So now I want to be able to do something in the same quality as those films, but also give them a different narrative, a different point of view, and especially dealing with Black people. You know what I mean? And coming from the eyes of a Christian Black man does not have an agenda. I want to give you the option, because no matter how good my movie is, no matter how good of preaching I'm doing, if Holy Spirit's not moving on their heart, they ain't going to get born again. You know, they ain't going to accept the Lord. But I want to present the option. Like, hey, there's another way. There's another option than the option that you've been presented. And that's what I want to do with my feature films.
Yeah, and absolutely. And film is the way. Video is the way. I can write some of the greatest articles of my life, and I know, you know, maybe this many people will read it, or I can upload a 15-second Instagram story just talking about the movie the article as a speed read, and that'll probably get 10 times the views as what I poured my soul into writing.
Yeah.
So definitely, like, that's even what I'm trying to do. Like, my next stories need to be on camera because people aren't reading anymore.
True.
So having these face-to-face conversations, even things like this, as opposed to, you know, I'm interviewing you and I'm taking notes and I'm writing an article, I feel like that's a waste of time. Like, you want to hear the tone, you want to see the expression, you know, we want to hear the hurt, we want to hear the heart. And you can capture all of that on film, and it's a beautiful thing. Especially now, like, we could do this on a phone, where, you know, 15 years ago you couldn't, 10 years ago even you couldn't. So it's a beautiful thing. Yes, but all right, man. So real quick, where could everyone follow you? Where can we watch your work? Maybe throw out some of your, maybe your last 5 music videos you did. Everyone could go check them out.
Okay, cool. So I did a video for an artist from RMG named Daniela
Apicella.
Yeah.
Apicella.
You built me out. So yeah, so her video.
This is a dope video.
Today. I did a video for a legend called Peele. Came out today. And then I got a video with Kelly Glow. She's over here, right here. Her video drops tonight. Her video drops at midnight tonight. Her video is called Off Rosecrans. It was the last time I was able to go to Cali before all this mess happened. You know what I mean? So those 3 came out. I probably got some other videos, but those ones I can remember right now. Sorry, guys, if your video came out and I didn't mention you. Don't hate me.
It's a good chance. It's a good chance that Will made your video if you're watching this. Where can we contact you? And, you know, if we want you to make our video, or, you know, just to follow you, whatever. All
right, you can follow me. The only social media I'm on is Instagram. Okay, so it'll be at Director Will Thomas. Website, thewillthomas.com. You can see my recent work. I did a video for Roy Tosh last week. Okay, so that's another one that came out. No Breaks. So that came out last week. So that's where you can find me, those websites, and on Instagram.
All right. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you. You came here. You preached about half a sermon, dropped a lot of knowledge. I appreciate you. And it was good to meet you, man.
Good to meet you too, man. It was a pleasure.
Now we're going with Rhyan Lamarr, the filmmaker behind Canal Street, behind Better Days with 1K Few, and the other part, the second part that came out featuring Social Club and some more of your favorite people. He's been making music. He's just got a lot of things going on, and we're going to talk about some of those things. Good, man. How are you doing?
Man, I'm chilling, man. I've just been watching Rapzilla TV, man, for the past hour and a half, man. It's been dope, man.
Yeah, I know. You've been in here since the beginning. You are the artist that watches the full show for the people that open up, and that's always appreciated. You don't just show up and go to the green room, and everyone goes on stage and comes out. Oh yeah, nice set, and you didn't even see the set.
For real, bro. For real. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm excited. You know me, how I love film, and I'm trying to get into film. So just talking to three film guys is something that I don't normally get to do. So
I loved what Darius had to say. I love what Will had to say. I was just like, man, the show over, man. I'm just gonna say what's up and get off of here.
So for everybody tuning in from Ryan's page now, or if you just tuned in on Rapzilla's page, my name is Justin. I'm the editor of Rapzilla. This is Community During Chaos. Every week, I speak to 3 different people within the space, and we talk about solutions, positive movements, and just being leaders throughout the craziness that's going on in what we know as 2020, the black spot on the calendar. So how can we get through this and navigate through it, and what can we learn about each other and moving forward? So that is what we're doing. What's up, Bree Smiles, friend of the show, Bree Smiles.
What up, Bree?
And she killed it when she was on here. That episode, if you scroll down on our Instagram, it'll be there. So Ryan, 2020, how have you navigated through this year between COVID, between civil unrest, just between everything that's going on?
Man, you know what? It's the first time somebody's asked me this exact question. And I've done a lot of interviews, but so a lot of folks don't know that, like, real talk, I came close to losing my life at the 2020. I was having some medical issues and went into the hospital, and the doctor, found out I had some internal bleeding going on, and the doctor said, "What made you come in?" And I was like, "Man, I don't know, just something didn't feel right. I felt like I was just getting electrocuted. Like, it was weird. It's a weird feeling. I never felt it before." He said, "If you wouldn't have came in today, you wouldn't have been coming in this way through the front door."
Wow.
And it really shook me, so this entire quote unquote quarantine, season, I was healing. I was in unbearable pain, bro. Like, I was in a lot of pain, man. Even when we were finishing A Perfect Mess, my album that dropped, in May, man, I remember even being in the studio with Jack Red in pain, man. Like, in pain. There's a record called Distance that Dayton's on. And I remember, like, sitting in the hospital bed, like, working on the song, man. Like, it was hell. I don't know how to say it. It was hell. And because of everything, I was by myself.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't, you didn't really know, like, my parents are a little bit older. At the beginning, you didn't really know, like, should you be around people, vice versa, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was, like, nursing myself. And so physically, it was the worst it had been physically for my body in a long time. But spiritually, creatively, man, it's the best time I've had in a while, which is a lot of, it's ironic to say that. As a ministry, Red Gorilla, as a company, it's our best year ever. And I was talking to Will about that a couple months ago, and I was just like, it's so weird to say that because I've had some terrible years. You know what I'm saying? Like, terrible years. And not to throw anything away from the tragedies and everything that we went through this year. I mean, personally, I lost my grandmother. I lost my aunt. My business partner, Bishop Barnes, who is the CEO of Red Gorilla. I'm the founder of Red Gorilla. He's the CEO of Red Gorilla. He also runs a very prestigious funeral home in New York. I mean, and they lost a lot of people, you know, over the past. So, you know, I know at least 10 people that have passed away from COVID, you know, so it's just like, you know, it's been, you know, up and down, you know, and then not to mention the social unrest, you know, and things that I've been seeing my entire life, you know, amplified on TV every 2-3 weeks, you know, for the span of 2-3 months. It was like a marathon, you know what I mean? You know, and so, you know, it's been a lot. But I feel like the Lord has been bringing people out the physical buildings of churches and back to the people. You know, I feel like the Lord has been ridding all the distractions that we found ourselves in. And we are getting back to church. We're getting back to the body of Christ is uniting. I mean, look, if anybody who's on fire right now, who the Lord has been speaking to, you know, the messages are starting to kind of confirm a lot of things. So I just, you know, and I'm all over the place, but 2020 has been all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had this conversation with a few people who, and I just mentioned it, I think it was with Will. There's just like, people are afraid, especially in this season, to say if things are going well, because for so many people, things have gone so wrong. But a lot of people during this time have found success because of what you said. Like, it's been a time that they've just been able to like sit back and not be distracted, right? It's like, some people have all this free time now, or some people, you know, maybe they lost their job, but losing that job allowed them to pursue some sort of passion that was something else. And of course, lots of people have dealt with plenty of loss, but trying to overcome that loss, they were able to do something, you know, spectacular. So it really is such an interesting time, and appropriately named. You know, you have Red Gorilla. You think about like guerrilla marketing and just having to redo everything. It's like, this is what we used to do when things were normal, but now we have to kind of hit the drawing board and you know, take it to a whole nother level, and just doing things.
You know, what's crazy too is, like, as a filmmaker, you know, and as an independent filmmaker, as an independent artist, you know, and just coming up in Chicago, you start to learn how to plan ahead, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a planner and you know, and you plan ahead and you really, really follow that, then 2021 should have already been spoken about in 2020.
Right.
2019, you should have already been putting this together stuff for 2020. So, you know, and I know it's easier said than done, right? I know there's a lot of trial and error in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that it's been a terrible year for them, but then I've talked to a lot of people where it's actually been very productive.
Yeah.
You know, for folks like us who are, you know, work from home a lot, you know, laptops and stuff like that, and we, you know, work kind of remotely anyway. You know, we boomed, man. You know, and so I just thank God. You know, you do kind of get into that, like, man, I feel bad saying it, but you know, man, I've talked about enough of the things that, like, I went through when I was messing up and making mistakes, and when, you know, and the Lord pulled me out of a lot of garbage I was in. So why can't I just say, man, God has been blessing our ministry this year, and utilizing us to reach people who you wouldn't even be able to reach.
Yeah.
Because they would be distracted, running around doing whatever, but they had their butts at home.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, you know, so that's my take on 2020 so far.
Yeah.
We're still in it, right?
It ain't over yet. So what about you? Have you been able to use your platform and sort of your creativity to kind of do something for the community, or to give back in any way this year?
Man, I'll start from the most recent. Red Gorilla partnered with Amplify, and we were able to push out an amazing messenger and minister, Bree Smiles, right? And we were able to get behind her ministry, you know, and Bree's a foot soldier, you know what I mean? Bree, you know, you interviewed her, so you know, getting behind strong voices like that, you know, that can make at the end of the day can make God's word reach the masses, you know. Getting behind people like Pastor Fisher out in Compton at Greater Zion Baptist Church, who is a fireball in Compton right now and is doing amazing things. Working with our resources with a lot of the influencers that we have, you know, like Don Benjamin, like Daystorm, like King Batch, and like talking with them and sitting with them. And when they come, you know, being able to just have a conversation, a non-judgmental conversation about not only about Christ, but about how they're feeling, you know, and how utilize their platform. It's one thing to be an influencer, but it's another thing to be an influencer of influencers.
Yeah.
You know, where these people, 26 million people look to them. You know what I mean? And being able to have those conversations. So it's like, you know, just being strategic and paying attention and not being so quick to say stuff in the midst of all this, because you have to be careful where you're reading, where you're looking, who's doing research, where you're doing your research. Like, you know, because everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's got an agenda. I have an agenda. My agenda is to get you, me, and everybody else that's listening to the promised land. Like, that's my agenda. And everybody's got an agenda, right? And so for me, you know, you just have to be careful and you have to be silent, you know what I mean? Just kind of pay attention to certain things. And right now the Lord has just been speaking creativity, man. So that's how we've been utilizing the platform, doing what we've been doing, man, just creating content.
All right. So here's a creative question that I'm going to kick at you. As a filmmaker, if you were to take the many plot points of 2020, how are you merging them together to tell a cohesive story?
Oh man, it could be a comedy or it could be a drama, man.
It could be a lot. It could be a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Man, because you know, it started with
sci-fi.
It could be sci-fi. Again, 2020's not over yet, man. Man, that's a tough question, man. Ask me it again. I want to make sure I answer it right.
All right, let me read it. As a filmmaker, if you were asked to make a movie out of 2020, how are you merging all of the plot points together?
It'd be the Bible. It would be it would be the Bible meets Malcolm X meets This Is the End. Yeah, man. Honestly, man, I would keep it real, man. I've always wanted to make Revelations. I've always wanted to make a movie about what happens in the 11th hour, you know, so I would call it the 11th hour. And, you know, and I mean, New Year's Eve, nobody could have predicted anything that was going to happen New Year's Eve, right? You know, and so it kind of would, like you said, it kind of would open up like a sci-fi, you know, movie. But it would go,
COVID-19 comes from space.
Yeah, man.
Like an alien.
It would go real biblical real quick, man. You know what I mean? It would real quick. You know, a lot of that stuff scare a lot of people into their faith, out of their faith. But I definitely would go. I mean, we got this thing we say, like, you know, we're not doing entertainment anymore. You know, we're doing ministry now. We're not doing entertainment. Like, what are you doing with your platform? You know, that's just, you know, to keep it real, man. That's where I would go with that.
All right. And do you feel, all right, this is a totally different subject, but still related to film. What do you think about, or let me ask it this way. Do you feel that it's disingenuous for Hollywood and various platforms to kind of now, almost in a way, like they're forcing people of color into spots, into movies, like, or where it's not really organic? Like, do you ever feel like it's disingenuous, or do you feel like it's organic, or do you need it to be more organic? You get what I'm trying to say?
Oh, no. It is. No, it is, man. Listen. I can't.
It's organic or it's disingenuous.
Or it's disingenuous.
Okay.
And man, look, I can't say too much of the names or whatever, but you know, when the George Floyd stuff happened, when the Breonna Taylor stuff happened, like right in that moment, Hollywood was reaching out to Black filmmakers and looking for that movie just so they could buy the project and shelf it, but say, look what we're doing, we're getting behind Black filmmakers, right?
Yeah.
And now it's coming to a point of now it's just like, well, now we have to put Black people here. Now we got to put Black people here so that we can say that we're doing something, right? But it's something I've been battling in Hollywood for a long time. When we did Canal Street, before Get Out came out, we had been fighting to get Canal Street off the ground for about 15 years. You know, and they said our cast was too Black. You know, you might want to put some white people in it. This is one of a very prominent Christian film company blatantly told me that, and said that it was too gritty. 2 months later, Get Out comes out, and they're like, "Hey, you still got that movie? You have any more Black people you could put in that movie?" And me and my partner, one of my partners, Chris Jennings, we were just like, "Yo, these jokers, this is the same jokers that we were talking to a couple months ago that said our movie was too Black. Now they're like, your movie's not Black enough. We need more Black people in it." You know what I mean? And it becomes real gimmicky. I have some pretty close friends of mine who are pretty high up on an acting level who have been turning down projects left and right because they've been, oh, we got a Booker T. Washington movie now. Oh, we got a Reggie. Like, bruh, like we still want to do like real movies, man. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this movie. It doesn't have to be this movie. It doesn't have to be the movie about the gang member. It could just be a regular movie. You know, but unfortunately, you know, we keep going down that path, you know, and shout out to Zendaya, but, you know, what did she just win a role for? You know what I mean? Like her Emmy, that Emmy she just got, what was that character that she just won for? If you watch it, you know, her character, you know, strung out drug addicts. Like, we don't have any other roles that Hollywood keeps giving us. And so people like myself, like Will, like Darius and other people, we're trying to just create roles, you know. That's why Atlanta is so one of Atlanta like was so successful because Donald Glover's character, like I can relate to, right? Yeah. You know, like obviously, you know, there's those other characters in there, but those are the certain things that people kind of, you know, relate to. So, you know, for me, I'm just like, we have to keep creating characters that we see ourselves in, not just the color. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. So now you have to have more Black people or, you know, Black and brown and in your movies for it to be considered as an Oscar, right? So what are you going to do? Now you're going to does that mean that we're going to have like more stereotypical roles, or we're going to start creating real roles? You know, and so it's something I've been battling with. I'm Black, so it means I'm a Black filmmaker. I'm a Black person, so I make Black films. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, but no, you know, I make a project, a comedy, and it becomes, and they put it in the same thing as like a Wayans Brothers movie. My buddy Chris Jennings makes a movie, and they make it they put it in Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen, and it becomes just a comedy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just like, all right, we're going to change that, though, with some stuff, the products we got coming out this year and next year. But, you know, sorry, that's like a heated, that's one of my triggers right there, bro.
I got a follow-up for you, but don't forget the other box you're in. So not only are you a Black filmmaker, but you're a Christian rapper. So now you got two boxes that you got to fight your way out of. So let me say this, though. I'm glad you brought up Zendaya. So how do you feel about these awards? Because I feel like now the thing is like, oh, now we're giving out more awards to Black filmmakers, to people of color, to women. But do they actually deserve these awards, or are they given these awards to kind of appease somebody?
Real talk, Zendaya killed that role. Like she killed it. Like, she killed it. You know what I mean? But it's just like, you know, why like Halle Berry got an Oscar. You know, in Monsters Ball, what was she playing? You know, Denzel's character. What was he playing? You know what I mean? Denzel's first Oscar, he played a slave. It's just like, you know, these are these things. You know, Ray. You know, Jamie Foxx killed it in Ray, but he's playing an entertainer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so we go down these lines of these different awards and these accolades. And it all kind of comes back to, you know, you got to get in where you fit in, you know, and it's just like, well, who else, you know, I gotta work. I gotta do this amazing role, you know, but then you have, you know, God bless him, man, you know, but, you know, you have people like Chadwick Boseman, right? You know, who was on to something, right? You know, even with his characters, he was on to something, turned down a lot of roles that he was offered, because he was fighting, you know, from a different side, you know, and so it's, yes, people can put in the work and they do deserve the award, but they put in the work for the role that they got, which was already a stereotypical role. But how do you? But there has to be some type of progress, and sometimes it's not up to Hollywood to write it. Sometimes it's up to us to write roles that we want to see. You know, people get on Tyler Perry. You know, you don't have to like his films, but he has definitely made characters he wanted to see on screen.
Right. And it's okay to have a film, just like there is for music, that's not for everybody.
Exactly.
But he knows who his audience is, and he keeps creating for that audience, and that audience keeps eating it up because that's what they understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've always kind of wanted to talk about that. So I'm like, I think Rhyan is the guy that I'm going to have this conversation with.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit. I was going to ask if your race ever kind of impeded your ability to get work on a film or to create a story.
Hey, D, I'm just saying what's up to the folks right here. Yes, man, yes. You know, Bishop Terrell Fletcher told me something at the beginning of this year, and I think about it a lot now, and I never really, he said, he said, you're going to see as you get older, that people are going to get promoted past you, and you're going to be wondering why. And the only thing that's going to be different is because of the color of your skin. You're going to be level here, but you're going to start to see this, and you're going to have to fight. But you're going to start to see that. I've started to see that, and it becomes clearer and clearer. But I don't let it define me or my attitude or how I move or how I go about certain things. But I've lost jobs. I deal with racism on a weekly basis in my own industry, not just from black people. I mean, I'm sorry, not just from white people, you know, from my own people. I deal with it all the time. But that's why we started to create our own thing, man. You know what I mean? Just started to create our own thing so we can make our own rules, man. But I deal with it. I deal with it on a weekly basis, man. You know, and I see it, and you see it for what it is, and you keep it moving. You can literally let it define you and hold you back, or you can use it to elevate you. And we just use it to elevate us.
Yeah, amazing. And we mentioned him, not you, but in the conversation before you, we mentioned someone like Jordan Peele, who just kind of made his way into, like, everyone's like, oh, this is a funny guy. Like, right. You would think he'd make that Wayans Brothers type of film, working on Key and Peele, but he's like, nah, I'm going to give you some dope sci-fi horror movies.
But he had those scripts.
And he created them all on his own.
Before, but they were like, we want you to do Key and Peele. Come on, come do this buffoonery for a while, but I do got this project called Get Out. Nah, we good. Just keep doing that, And so he had to get a very small budget to go shoot Get Out just to get the people to pay attention to him, because all they wanted him to do was keep doing this stuff that, oh no, you can make us laugh, you can do this, but you can't come and tap into this over here. This is for us, right? And so he had to take a $2 million budget when he should have got $20 million to Get Out, just to prove it to them.
Yeah.
Just to get a smaller budget on us, just to prove it to them again, so then they can start saying, oh yeah. Okay, but now it's just like, oh, you want to be the next Jordan Peele? You want to be the next Ryan Coogler? No, I want to be the next Ryan Lamarr, because we all have our own stories to tell.
Yeah, it's wild too if you think about the level of talent, because usually, especially people in comedy, those people do comedy for like their whole careers. And then anytime they do a serious role, like you think of Adam Sandler, you know, doing it like Uncut Gems or like Punch Drunk Love, like one of the serious roles that he did. And everyone's like, wow, like he can do this, but he's like a funny guy. And then you see someone like Jordan Peele who does sketch comedy, like a la Dave Chappelle. And all of a sudden he writes like this masterpiece of a film. And then it's like, whoa. And like, there is plenty of talent out there if you look for it, but people, like you said, they get put in this box and then they're expected to perform and deliver within this box all the time. When, like you said, Jordan Peele had this script in his head the whole time, but he was just waiting to get his shot, and he got his shot. And there's plenty of people in Hollywood that just need, or even outside of Hollywood, just everywhere, that don't get that shot because of that box that they're placed in. And the world becomes a better place once you let those people at the box.
Look, I got this really good friend of mine. His name is Chris Spencer. He was in Canal Street. Chris Spencer is a phenomenal comedian, a phenomenal writer, you know, and he also has a passion for acting. But as long as he's behind the camera writing for people, they're like, cool, but let him want to act, you know. And they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, Chris just wrote and co-directed the Emmys, you know what I'm saying? But he can't, you know. You talk about Husbands of Hollywood and Kevin Hart and all this stuff, but it's just like, but he can't. But people won't put him in a movie to like act, and the dude's brilliant, you know. And so it's just like, no, you're cool in that box, but don't come out the box. You're cool in the box though, you know. And so it's just that's just what it is, you know. But you can change it though, you know, by collaboration, you know.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I was talking about with both Darius and Will is kind of telling these, you know, these stories about people of color and having this experience, and you having the ability to tell these stories. One of the things I'm excited to hear you talk about, because I've heard you mention it before, is that you're working on a film about Sean Bell and what happened in that whole situation. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, first off, there is another Sean Bell movie that Jason Mitchell is attached to. That is not our film, because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, yo, it's not our film. We got some heavyweights attached to it that I can't say the names who's attached, but it's an amazing cast. We got some Oscar winners attached, so it's amazing cast. But I reached out to the Bell family a couple years ago. I never really wanted to tell the Fruitvale Station. Fruitvale Station was an amazing project. I just, it's kind of what Will was talking about earlier. At a certain point in time, you don't just want to keep talking about the same stuff, right? I lived that. I lived that life. I literally lived. I don't want to tell the story because when I saw Fruitvale, when it was over, and if you've seen it at the end, you know, and the mom and the daughter asks, "Where's Dad?" and she just looks off, and it just goes black. I was infuriated. You know, I was mad. I know what to do with that. And if you're a great filmmaker, you're going to create content that's going to move people in a certain way. And I didn't want to make another Fruitvale Station.
Right.
But what I was interested in was the faith that the mom and the father had, the forgiveness that the mother and the father had to have. Because if you don't know this, the parents met with the officer that killed their son, you know, and forgave him. And I said, you know, that's the story, man. I want to talk about the power of forgiveness. I don't want to talk about the power. I don't want to give any more power to bullets and racism and a messed up and a flawed system, because, you know, the villain isn't even the cops or people on the street. The villain is society. The villain is the system, you know, and it gets a little bit bigger than that. So it's like, all right, well, let's unpack this and let's create this story. And we were able to get people behind it because I was able to say that. I don't tell another movie about a black dude getting killed. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. I'm tired of it. Tired of even giving it any energy. You know what I mean? Like, how we always talk about changing the narrative and creating something that will switch. You know, well, let's be a part of the change, but then be a part of the change and do something different.
Yeah.
You know, teach with your platform. And so You know, I was able to reach out to some great people. I can't talk about Michael T Williamson, who's coming on board to help us produce. You know, Michael T. You know, he's been in everything from Heat to Forrest Gump to, I mean, it's the Fences. Mekhi Phifer, you know, has come on to help produce the project. I can talk about Juve. Juve, if you don't know who Juve Juve is Viola Davis's company. And so we've been able to start working in certain areas like that. And so it's been able to do some really good things. And I'm really proud of the work that we've been putting together to make sure that this story is done right. And so we start working on that at the top of the year. And man, the music is going to be insane. I can't wait to get going on that, man.
Nice.
You know, like you said in the beginning, just kind of having one foot in both lanes, music and film. I was in music before I was a filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, people just know me as a filmmaker, but that's going to be a great project. That's going to be a great project. And yeah, I feel I've never felt so close to somebody. Talking about Sean, I never felt so close to somebody I never met before. You know, he would have been my age, you know, if he was still around. And there's something to say about that. You know, and we're not creating an excuse for the NYPD, but we are creating a mirror to change things.
Right.
You know, and so the Sean Bell story, which is called Morning Bells, we start going into production on that to the top of 2021.
Was that delayed because of COVID, or was that always the plan to start it at the top of the next year?
Oh, it wasn't even COVID, man. It just we just know, but so when you're doing something like that, we have a lot of different parties involved that are already attached to shows and movies and stuff like that. We needed some time to really put it together and really make sure that we could make this, because it's a legacy project.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's legacy, you know. So that COVID didn't interrupt that. We have another movie that we go into production in pretty soon. COVID did interrupt that, but we're going to production in about a month and a half on that. I can't wait to get into that project, man. It's called North of the 10, so I'm looking forward to getting into that.
What are your hopes and dreams for the future coming out of the madness of this year?
You know what, man? I would be remiss to not. I wanted to say something. I want to say a couple names. I want to make sure I had them right. Cassandra Jolie, Chris Jamerson, Will Thomas, Darius, Wes Armstrong, Juan Garcia, Joseph Shaw, Rise and Shine Media, Jose Mustafa, Cinematics, Henry Busby, Sam Brave. List goes on and on. These are some amazing filmmakers that are in the CHH space that don't get a lot of the credit, but their work shines. And we have to do a lot more, giving people roses and uplifting them while here. You know, and so I think that I see a lot of the content just raising the bar. And it's because it's not just the music, not just the musicians, it's also the filmmakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That grew up, you know, watching music videos and then honed their talent and brought them back to the body, brought them back to CHH, to church, to gospel, to inspirational, to faith-based, faith-driven, whatever you want to call it. And so I just want to make sure that people are paying attention and knowing that there's people behind the camera. And if you're watching this and you want to rewind it and listen to it again, I made sure that I put those people out there. Okay, what was the question, bro? I just had to make sure I did that.